Hi, welcome to our MSGDA program overview webinar. My name is Janet Doan. I'm the admissions outreach coordinator. We really appreciate you for taking your time out of your busy day to be here and to listen about our program. Here with me today, I have the Associate Professor of Genetics, Dr. Barbara Fortini, who will just be giving you a brief overview of the program and let you know what you can expect if you do our program here at KGI. Dr. Fortini, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Janet, for that introduction. As Janet just mentioned, I am an associate professor of genetics here at KGI. I've been at KGI now for over 5 years, and I'm the program director for our Master of Science in Human Genetics and Genomic Data Analytics program. So I hope you're joining this call because you're interested in what genetics and genomics is doing for healthcare and what it promises to do for helping to develop new treatments and new ways to diagnose different diseases. And so our program is great for people who are interested in that personalized or precision medicine. Also, though, if you're interested in using genomic data to make better drugs for people, there's a lot of genetics and genomics that goes into drug development today. We also are continuously developing new genetic and genomic tests that get used in clinical settings. And so KGI has a strong spirit of entrepreneurship. And so we would love people who are interested in being in that field. Also, for designing direct-to-consumer products. I didn't call them diagnostic tests because they can't be used to diagnose anything. But they are used for entertainment purposes or people who want to learn more about their family or their history. And there are a lot of them now marketed and have different features. So there's always a market for new and exciting genomic tests. And then if you want to use big data to advance health and healthcare, this can also be the program for you. So as I mentioned, I've been at KGI for over 5 years now. And in that time, we developed the MSGDA program from scratch. So we were starting a genetic counseling program, and there was this idea to have another program that would fit into this new booming clinical genomics industry. And so that's great for the program because it is using that lens of what is the future going to hold for the industry. And so we built a program that would meet that future need. That said, we've been running this program now for 5 years. And so we have a lot of experience in these courses and experience having our students get internships and jobs. And so it's kind of a great point to be in the program. It's still exciting and new, but we do have some experience. It does provide a strong foundation in human genetics. Those are the first 2 words in our degree title. But then we add on those bioinformatics and industry skills, which will make you really stand apart from other people who get a degree in genetics. And it is to prepare you all to work in a lot of different settings, perhaps at a clinical genomics lab, or perhaps in a research center, or a biotech company, or a big pharmaceutical company. And we have students that have gone to all of those different pathways. And it is really to position you for the age of precision and personalized medicine, which is very rapidly approaching. But one of the things that's holding it back is the lack of trained people. So the strengths of our program are 2 different things. It's what you know and who you know. And so the what you know are the coursework and experiential education experiences that are in human genetics. We have a lot of foundational courses in genetics. Then we add on those applied life science courses, and then the innovative, the new genomics courses that are really all about what's being done today and what's almost about ready to be put into the market. And so that is all about content and knowing skills and knowledge that will set you apart from other people. The other thing you get at KGI is a great group of people to know. So you'll be in classes with future genetic counselors, and those genetic counselors may work at the same company that you work at in the future. They might be at the same hospital system, or they might be just someone you can text when you have a question and you don't quite remember what one of these diseases is all about. And so it's a great way to network, even as a student, for getting a huge cohort of future collaborators. We also have the opportunity to take classes with our Riggs School of Applied Life Sciences. So you will meet people from different programs like the Masters of Science program, the Masters of Business and Science, maybe even one of the engineering courses. And that gets you also some connections that might be working in the development side of companies you might want to work for in the future. And so that is a great combination of experiences. You have both skills and knowledge, but also a great network of students that are your future colleagues. So let's talk about the program structure. It is a 21-month program, so just short of 2 years. It's 2 academic years. The first year is mostly didactic, and that just means classroom courses where you will read papers and do activities and take exams. And those are split kind of evenly between courses that are specific for our genetics programs and ones that are offered by the Riggs School of Applied Life Sciences. In the summer, between your first and second academic year, you'll do an internship either at a company or a clinical lab, and we'll talk about that in a few more slides. And then in the second year, you again have some didactic coursework. This is when we do a lot of the specialty genomics courses. And then you'll have a chance to take some electives, and you'll also be doing your capstone research. So let's just look through some of these courses, because I think the way to really understand the program the best is to know about the courses that we offer. So under our core genetics courses, these are all classes that you will take with the genetic counseling students. I teach several of them. So the human molecular genetics is a fall first year course that I teach. You'll also take genetic disease mechanisms with Dr. Bayless. And then in the spring, I teach the human genomics course. And you will have the opportunity to take clinical cancer genomics, medical genetics, and biochemical genetics. Again, those are our medical genetics courses with the genetic counseling students. And I'm very excited to announce that starting this spring, we have a pharmacogenomics course that was designed specifically for our genetics programs. So that will be taught by someone who literally wrote the book on pharmacogenomics, Martin Zdanowitz, who is a faculty member here at KGI. And that will be the first offering of this course. So that is a great foundation in everything you need to know about human genetics. For the Riggs School courses, again, these are a lot of them are in the first year. We give you that well-rounded sort of perspective on all the other things that have to happen to take knowledge and make it into something useful. And so the first is our Intro to the Bioscience Industry course. It is actually a favorite of a lot of our students. And so you get to learn about how things go from concept and idea to something that actually is available for patients. We do also have a class in clinical biostats, so you can learn to interpret data, and this will be very important for your capstone research. We have a class that is sort of very much in the spirit of the GDA program, but is pre-existing at KGI, called Bioinformatics in R. And so that is a bioinformatics course, but you'll be able to meet students from many different programs here that are also interested in using the R programming language in their studies. Then we have a class called Clinical Trial Design, and it also includes clinical literature interpretation. And that course is taught by another one of our genetics faculty, Dr. Bayless, to really help you understand how to read clinical literature, which is very different than reading research papers that are more molecular based. After that, we have fundamental papers in applied medicine, which again is another course to help start thinking about the translational aspect of how you take a concept or a phenomenon that can be observed in molecular experiments or in cell-based experiments, and then turn that into a medical diagnostic or a treatment. And last, we do have a healthcare ethics course that everyone takes together in the spring of the first year. So those are the foundations that you'll take with students from other programs. Then we have a few courses that are specific just to the GDA program. And the first is our Human Genomics NGS lab. So while everybody in the first year is taking human genomics, the GDA students have a separate course with me where we do some sequencing using our MinION long-read sequencer, and we'll interpret data directly. So while we're doing the concepts in class, we'll practice some of the hands-on skills in the lab. The next is Programming for Bioscience, and that is a class taught in Python. And this is a course for absolute beginners. So even the first week, I don't think we even start with any sort of programming. It's just how to think like computer scientists, how do programs work. And this course is taught by Dr. Zach Dodds, who's a very beloved faculty member. He is actually a computer science professor at Harvey Mudd College, but he is an expert at teaching computer sciences to complete novices. So if you don't have a background in programming or computers, we have a course that will start at the very basic for you and get you up to speed very quickly. The next one on the list is a really important class for a lot of people who want to go on to a career as a variant interpretation scientist, and that is DNA sequencing and variant analysis. This is the course where we learn the key concepts in precision medicine, how to take clinical grade DNA sequencing, find changes that are found in a patient and decide if they are responsible for the phenotypes that are being seen. And so that's a really important class if you want to pursue that career, to be able to tell people that you have been trained with all of the guidelines on how to do this job. We also have a course called Genomic Knowledge Translation, and that is a fancy way to say communications. It is a course in the spring of the second year where you really do take all of your complex knowledge and learn how to tell people in other fields what all of this means. And so that's a fun course taught by Dr. Bayless as well. And then the last one is functional genomics, and I always joke that is putting the fun back in genomics. It is a course that I teach in the second year, and it's all about the cutting edge research around genomics, which might not be relevant to clinical diagnostics for the next 10 years, but it is a class where we talk about how we use these kind of cutting edge techniques to learn more about how the genome works. So those are all the required classes. So everybody in MSGDA will take all of those classes. But we do have the opportunity for electives. So within your 3 concentrations, you would choose your concentration in the spring of your first year. And then in your second year, you take classes within either clinical decision support, clinical trial design, or assay development. And we'll talk about individual courses you could choose on the next slide. But that rounds out all of your didactic coursework in the second year. Also going on though in the second year is your research experience. So we have a capstone, not a thesis, although some people's capstones look very much like a master's thesis, where you would either continue your internship work or start a new project and write a manuscript, prepare a poster, and give a scientific talk on some question that is of relevance to clinical genomics. And that can be at a company, that can be at an academic site, or it can even be internal at KGI. So I did mention the 3 concentrations. And so 6 total credit hours means either 2 or 3 courses, depending on if you choose full semester courses or half semester courses that we call modules. These are not all of the courses that you could take. I just highlighted some of the more popular ones in each of the 3 concentrations. The first concentration is clinical decision support. And this is our most popular concentration. It was the one that we originally designed the concept of the MSGDA degree around, which was for people who would be working as support roles in these clinical genomics labs. And so examples of courses that you might take are human embryology and prenatal diagnosis. That is a course that all of the genetic counseling students take, but if you wanted to take that, you could as an elective. We also have a microbiomics and pathogen genomics course. So everything else in the curriculum is human nuclear genetics, a little bit of mitochondrial, but this course really focuses on the difference when you start sequencing prokaryotes. And the last few years have taught us that pathogen genomics is kind of a big deal. And so it's a course to really understand how to use the skills and tools that have been developed for human genomics on these kind of problems. Another course, molecular basis of disease. Again, if you're trying to interpret data to understand why diseases might present the way they do. Our advanced in vitro diagnostics course is very popular. That used to be a required course for everyone, but it is more specific towards those people that are really interested in diagnosis. So now it's an elective, but it is a very popular class at KGI overall because it has a great project-based theme through the course. And then the last one is medical terminology. If you're going to be reading electronic healthcare records, you do have to be able to read all of the vocabulary that doctors use to decide if it fits into your phenotypes that you know about of disease. And so a lot of students appreciate that course. So that is clinical decision support. And again, it is the most popular of our 3 concentrations. The next concentration, though, was created after some conversations with one of our partners, which is Amgen. They were looking at our curriculum and said, oh, you can't let these people go to clinics. They need to work for us. Because if you have all these genomic analytic skills, you can help them design better drugs. And there's so much data now from patient groups that are being used to have more targeted therapies. And so some electives you might take if you're interested in that would be our genetic engineering course. We have a 2-class series called Pharmaceutical Discovery and Pharmaceutical Development to really understand what it takes to develop a new product. We also have a course called Biotechnology-Based Therapeutics. These are, again, the very cutting-edge types of therapeutics that are being created today. And then technologies for biomarker and drug discovery. So again, learning more of the tools that are used for creating these new drugs. The last concentration we came up with is really based on the spirit of KGI, and that is the entrepreneurs that want to make the next great thing that is going to disrupt the whole healthcare industry. And so for those students who want to focus on that, we have our assay development concentration. There again, you can do genetic engineering because genetic technologies like CRISPR can be used both for diagnostics and for drugs and therapies. But we also have our medical diagnostics course, the advanced in vitro diagnostic course, which again are other types of assays. And then I've highlighted here the machine learning in the life sciences because a lot of data interpretation these days is being done with machine learning and AI algorithms. And so that is a course offered here at KGI. And the last I'm highlighting is Introduction to U.S. Food and Drug Law, which of course is a big part of making an assay as you have to actually get it cleared by the FDA to offer it to patients. So these are our 3 concentrations. Again, you would select in the spring of your first year. And so you'd actually get a little bit of coursework and a little bit of introduction to all 3 of these fields before you have to make a decision. We also have the opportunity for students to take up to 3 units of their electives at the Claremont Graduate University, which has an epidemiology program in their public health school. And they also have a lot of information science courses if you really want to go down the bioinformatics pathway. So there are other options. And one great thing about KGI being a small school is we have the flexibility to make a custom plan if you have a real interest in one particular subfield. So next I want to talk about the experiential component. So I've been talking a lot about classes for the last few slides, and it is an important part of the educational program. You will take a lot of units of courses. Being grad school, there are a lot of classes all at the same time, but hopefully they're all interesting because they're all about genomics. But another big portion of your education is education that's based around an experience and learning by doing. And so every student gets 2 different experiential education opportunities. The first is the summer internship. So the summer internship is a paid internship at either a company or a clinical lab or an academic lab where they're doing some type of human genomics. And the expectation is that you would work there full time for 10 weeks. That's a total of 400 hours. And if you like that project and the site is willing, you can continue to work on that same project as your capstone. However, we do have the second type of experience in the second year where you're working part-time basically. So for 6 credit hours, which means about 18 hours a week of effort, you'll be working on your capstone project for that whole second year. You can start a new project, and there are a lot more projects that are available because this is for academic credit, so it's not paid. So there are a lot of research labs that love to have MSGDA students as a capstone student. But if you do end up staying at the same place and doing your internship and capstone together, it means that when you graduate, you have both a master's degree and 1 year of experience at that site. And on the screen, you'll see some examples of places where we've had students over the last few years. I want to give a shout out to Fabric Genomics. They are a great company in the Bay Area that make a lot of variant interpretation software. And they've had students for multiple years. St. Jude Children's Hospital, we've also had students for many years with them. Rady Children's Institute, we have a collaboration with them. They're doing some amazing things in newborn sequencing for critically ill infants. We've had many different students at Genomic. They're one of our top educational partners, and they now have the most number of our alumni. So that's fun. And Kylos Genetics, also a great company that's making some novel diagnostics, has had students for many years. And so these are our partners, but we also leave the choice of internship up to the student. So if you have a company that you really want to work for, you're doing some internet research and you find an opportunity, we have career services that will help you apply to that and help keep an eye out for any great internships that would be appropriate for our students. So that is very much a self-directed exercise where you can choose the type of project that is most interesting to you. And the same thing for the capstone. Because you have your whole summer to arrange your capstone, you can really pursue something that is of interest and that will set you up for success in your future career. So speaking of capstones, I just wanted to highlight a few of our capstone titles that have been presented by students over the last few years. The first was in collaboration with the Rare Genomics Institute, using natural language processing of digital medical records to isolate phenotypic search terms for more robust fever analysis. Fever is an AI algorithm that helps try to guess which variant in a sequencing file might be the one that is causing a disease. And natural language processing is basically an AI way to pull out terms. And so one thing that is true for people with rare diseases, they often go on very long diagnostic odysseys, many, many years, where they're visiting different doctors trying to figure out what's going on. And because of that, their digital medical record is often just a scanned folder of PDF files. And so there were no pre-existing tools that could actually read the file. So at the Rare Genomics Institute, the volunteers were going through pages and pages and pages of medical records by hand to pull out all the search terms that they were going to put into their AI algorithm. And this student made a program that could basically read all of them in seconds. And it was a great hit, and everyone, I think they integrated it almost immediately into their workflow. On the next one, the CEBPA mutation phasing using PacBioscience circular consensus sequencing data was done with LabCorp. So that's an example of the type of project where companies are interested in a new technology to see if they can incorporate it into their workflow. It's not something that they are ready to roll out yet, but our student was looking at how successful this new technology would be retrospectively compared to their older technology. The next one, we have artificial intelligence sensitivity in detecting pathogenic variants for population health and newborn screening. Again, this is another one of starting to use AI to help understand what might be going on with variants or changes in the genome, and to see if that could help both adults and patients that still have undiagnosed disease and newborn screening. The next one on the list, ethnicity identification and genomic data of underrepresented populations, was done with St. Jude. And this really highlights that our whole program is very sensitive to the fact that there is a lot of bias in genomic data sets. And so in order to understand that and to correct it, we really have to develop new tools that can work with everyone's background, everyone's genomic data background. And so there are a lot of projects in the last few years especially, that have tried to directly address that for patients. And that is very useful. And then we have the case study on re-evaluating existing exome sequencing data. That was another one that was done in collaboration with the Rare Genomics Institute to try to decide on standards for how often you should go back and look again if someone hasn't been diagnosed with genomic data, because everything's changing. Every day a new paper is published. So we can't look back at everyone's data all the time. But if we do have a mystery, we should, in fact, go back every 6 months to every year to see if there's something new. The next one is Towards Precision Medicine, a comprehensive approach to tumor genetic and clinical outcomes. So this is another one that was at St. Jude. And this was a project where, again, looking at large data sets of many patients with the same disease, trying to find new themes or new ways to understand the disease itself. And the last was Analysis and Visualization Solutions for Analytic Control of Applied to Methylation Liquid Biopsy. This is a very hot field in genomics, using circulating tumor DNA to try to diagnose solid tumors in the bloodstream. So we could have the first real diagnostics for like ovarian cancer and bladder cancer, other types of cancers that we don't have good screening tests for. So many students have worked on these types of liquid biopsy panels. And this was just one example of the type of work that a GDA student could do. So I hope you've seen through this theme of our titles that there are a lot of different areas that genomics is changing medicine. And that means that with these skills, you can do a number of different careers. So the first career option I want to talk about is actually the career option that most of our graduates have chosen. I just did the calculations today. Over 60% of GDA graduates now work as a clinical variant scientist or a variant curator. Sometimes you'll see this title called a clinical genomic scientist. And people who do this job either work for a hospital system that does all of their sequencing and test interpretation in-house. And these are the big cancer hospitals and the big children's hospitals. Or they work for a company that does this as a mail order service. So you would take a sample from a patient and then mail that to one of these big companies, and they would do the interpretation. And some examples of those companies are Invitae, Color Genomics, Myriad Genetics, Fulgent Genomics. Those are all companies that specialize in different types of genetic testing. And so people from all over the world can send them samples and they would send back a report. Before the pandemic, I would make a big deal about the fact that this is often remote work. And I would say now that the pandemic has turned many jobs into remote work, it is never going back to being an in-person job. And so if you want a flexible schedule and you want the freedom to live anywhere and still work for one of these leading companies, this is a great career choice. That said, our students who do that, several of them said they feel part of the company. They still have, lots of Zoom meetings. They see their same team. They work as a small group. It's just not working in the same place. Some of these companies do get together once a year for like an in-person gathering. And some of the companies that are more local do get together like once a week or once a month for team meetings. So it's not completely isolating if you wanted to do one of these remote jobs. But the purpose of this job is to take genomic variants, so the sequencing results from patients, and try to determine which of those variants is pathogenic and basically diagnostic for their condition, or if there's nothing in the genetic data that explains what's going on. And so this is a really important job that's going to be more important as we do more sequencing for more and more patients, because we do have these algorithms to help speed up the process, but it still takes a trained scientist to look at the data and to make that judgment call about whether we have enough information to make a decision. So the next career is to be a genomic data analyst. And this is a little bit different because you're not necessarily working with individual patient data. So people who are genomic data analysts might work for a large research group or a hospital team where they're studying a disease, not any one patient, but the disease as a whole with patient groups. Or you might work for a biotech company or a pharma company that's using genomic data to make better assays or to do new drug development. Or you could work for one of the sequencing companies themselves that offers interpretation service as kind of an add-on thing. And there's companies like QIAGEN or GeneWiz and Illumina that they do the sequencing, but they always ask, for $100 more, would you like a report with lots of pretty graphs? And so this kind of job gives you the opportunity to work on a lot of different projects because every week something new might land in your inbox. The key thing, though, is if you have this job, you're using your knowledge and skills in genomics to make some fundamental discoveries based on whatever data set can be collected. It might be a particular disease type or a cell type, or it could be something coming from a consumer product like helping to analyze the 23andMe database. Another option would to be a research scientist in an academic lab. And this would be for those people who want to work in a small group, perhaps, or if you're really interested in one particular disease type or one particular area like autism or neurodegeneration, you could be the specialist that works with a principal investigator and a large research group where you help interpret the genomic data that's being created from experiments that they're doing themselves. Because in biology now, everything is genomics. Everybody's doing transcriptomic sequencing or all these multi-omic technologies. And so they need people who know how to manipulate the data and make these conclusions in order to interpret it. So it'd be used to help discover new biology. Next, I'll say there's all of these emerging careers. So every day I hear about a new company or a new concept or a new product, or there's a news article about some sort of new analysis that's being done because there is so much interest in genomics. And so like all of the genetic ancestry companies, they have tons of analysts that are trying to launch new reports or a new reason that somebody else might sign up to get their ethnicity profiling. We also have health and wellness consulting companies now that use genomics. These are companies that are focused not on a disease state, but how to live healthier lives and avoid disease. We also have companies that help interpret genomics data like 23andMe data. So they don't actually do the testing, but you can download your raw data. So they might offer new interpretations as a service. Or we have tons of startup companies these days focused on genetic engineering and trying to do CRISPR and to reverse mutations in patient cells. And so if you have this specialization in genomics, by definition, you're going to be on the cutting edge. So any of these jobs that are coming are going to require these types of skills. And the last thing I'll highlight is actually not sticking with the GDA as your terminal degree. We've had several students over the years decide that they love genomics so much and they loved education that they were going to go on to another program. So we have had a student go to medical school, and I'm so excited that we're going to have some doctors who think with a genomics mindset. And we also have a student who decided to become a nurse practitioner. So she's in nursing school right now because when she worked in her internship in Capstone, the person that she most wanted to be like was a nurse practitioner who was spending time with the families of these, in this case, it was children with rare disease. We've also had students decide to go get a PhD, that they really were very interested in the research angle of what we talked about. And so you can get a PhD in genomics or in bioinformatics. And then there's an opportunity also to use your knowledge to change how we do healthcare. And so I just call that as a healthcare policy analyst, but we have students who have been very involved in outreach to the legislature through this hackathon, policy hackathon, to really talk about, if we understand this genomics, what are we going to do different now? And so there's great need for people who actually understand the science to tell others about the science and to convince them to fund more research and to change how healthcare is delivered. Okay, so I've mentioned several of our alumni, but I just wanted to highlight where they all are. I'm so proud of all of them. We have, as I said, lots of variant interpretation scientists, kind of equally split at companies and at clinical labs. So we have 2 people working at Natera, one in the curation side, one more in the development side. We have someone at Tempus Labs that specializes in cancer genomics. We have a developmental scientist, so working on new ways of sequencing and diagnostics at Sirona Genomics. We have 3 people who do molecular pathology variant curation at City of Hope. And we have 5 people actually that have gone to the company Genomic, which is our friends. They make the software Mastermind, which helps read genomics literature with AI algorithms, but they're doing a lot of great things curating the entire human genome. So they're an exciting small company that help us by giving us free access to their software, and then lots of jobs to our alumni. And then we have a student working at Quest. You know, Quest is a huge diagnostics company. They don't just do genomics, but they do have a huge genetic testing arm. So we have a scientist there. And we do have those 3 students that are pursuing further degrees, which is always very exciting. So if this sounds exciting to you, we hope you do apply. We have all of our requirements on the website, but just to run through the big ones, we do require chemistry and biology with lab. And the big one is we do have to take an undergraduate general genetics course. Lots of applicants also have taken bioinformatics or human genetics. Really depends what's offered at your institution, but we do want to see that genetics course. Now, if that is the course that you are missing, we do have the opportunity for you to take it at KGI in the summer. We do teach an undergraduate genetics course if that is something that you need to refresh. So all of these courses need to have a C or better. Then we ask for a current CV or resume to get to know your background, personal statements to have you reflect on why you want to be a part of this field, and then 3 letters of recommendation and your application fee. We do take international students, so you would be required to submit your English proficiency test. And if you are an international student, we do encourage you to apply early just because of the visa process. It takes a while if you are admitted to get all of the paperwork in order to come. So the process, if you're interested, you would start your application at kgi.edu. We do review applications on a rolling basis. And so as soon as they come in, we do look at them. And because seats may fill up, we do want you to apply early. We'll review applications until the cohort is full. And those that we are interested in, we'll invite for an interview. So the interviews can be on campus or they can be virtual. And you'll meet myself again and have a conversation. And we'll also introduce you to a couple more KGI faculty members. And then after each interview day, we do have the admissions committee come together, and we have 3 different decisions we can make. We could accept, we can put someone on the wait list, or we can deny. The wait list would be revisited in the summer as soon as we know that we've concluded all of our interview days. And again, for the international applicants, please apply early because it does take a while if we do accept you to get all of the visa paperwork and to arrange for you to become a student. All right, and with that, that's all I was going to say about MSGDA, but we do have another program if you're interested in either genomic data analytics or maybe our genetic counseling program. We do have a summer program that's a great little taste of all of the different aspects of clinical genetics and bioinformatics called CGB. We'll be offering 2 sessions this summer in June. So if you're really interested, you can apply to that session and you'll get to spend a lot of time with me and a lot of time with Emily Quinn, who's the director of our genetic counseling program. And we will help you meet people and network and build your resume and really understand what clinical genetics and genomics is all about. So with that, I will say keep in touch just so you can see my email address. Of course, this is also on our website, but I would be happy to answer questions for you if they come up later. But with that, I will open it for questions now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fortini. It doesn't look like we have any questions today, but thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, please reach out to Dr. Fortini or reach out to our admissions team at admissions@kgi.edu. We really appreciate you taking the time here today, and we hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
All right.